Welcome to How Now, the podcast where we talk about how to live in the now. And here's your host, Kim Martin Raymond.
Peace and blessings, and welcome to another edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. I am your host, Kim Martin Raymond. I'm a minister, spiritual life coach, health and nutrition awareness coach, author and founder of Redefining You LLC, where I help my clients to realign themselves, mind, body, and spirit. And welcome to this third season of the How Now podcast. If you are new to the show, welcome. You are now officially part of the How Now podcast family. So be sure to go to www.hownowpodcast.com, click on your favorite podcast platform, and make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, and share, and hit that notification so you'll know when we are having our shows airing in the now. You can also go to the bottom of the page and click on the banner, and it will take you to the How Now YouTube channel, where you can like, follow, share, and subscribe, and hit that notification button there as well. So you can watch our shows in the now and see what's happening in seasons 1 and season 2, and what's coming up this season in season 3. So again, that is www.hownowpodcast.com. So let's get into today's episode entitled The Love Camp. Love Camp. Doesn't sound good. Okay, we're going to be talking about, the scope of the dating scene and how it's changed, and people are looking for new and innovative ways to find love. People are looking for love on purpose. And so, to join me to talk about this is my lovely guest to my left and to your right, depending on which way you're looking. And as is customary with the How Now podcast, I'm going to have my guest to introduce herself at this time.
Good evening, good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me, Kim. Absolutely. My name is Renee Miller, and I am a certified love coach and the founder of the Love Camp, where I help business professionals find healthy love so that they can have blissful life and love relationships.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, nothing like love. It's the month of love, and we're going to be people are going to be talking about Valentine's Day and all of those other good things. But people are looking for more meaningful relationships. I think that since the pandemic hit, people have been really looking inside themselves and realizing that the relationships that they may have existing may need to end, or they're looking and saying, okay, I've rediscovered some things about myself, and there are some things that I'm looking for, and I'm ready to start sharing my life with someone else. It's been a trying time. So, let's talk about what was going on prior to the pandemic and what your business was looking like then.
Sure. So prior to the pandemic, I was coaching primarily business professionals, women mostly, but some men, and the topics were different. The topics were around, starting a business. Some of them talked about how they wanted to be in healthy relationships. And then post-pandemic was very different. But before the pandemic, I think there was just, there was more things that people were taking for granted in their conversations, and then the things that were most important versus what we talked about afterwards.
Wow. I see, and that's it, and that's important. I mean, the scope has changed so much, because we were in a rat race, and everybody was just running and scrambling and just, a means to an end, and then the world stopped, and it was like, what do we do now? Everything is stopped. And so, people's priorities changed. People were now not only having to sit with themselves, they were having to sit with those who were in their homes. When they told you couldn't go out, you used to be able to just hop in your car and take off or come home late. Now you're stuck. And you're like, now I got to be with these people, and I'm not sure the people I want to be around. And so I'm sure it changed the scope. So you said after the pandemic, that things kind of changed. How so?
You know what came out the most that really surprised me is how lonely a lot of women were. whether they were in a relationship or single, when we were able to go out, we were able to like fill up space, fill up
Yes.
time and occupy ourselves and distract ourselves. And then as soon as we had to go inside, to your point, we had to reflect and be present. And we got real clear that we were just lonely. And I talked to quite a few clients as well as friends and family and realized how much they were lonely, even in their own space.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that like stood out to me the most. Even for myself, I realized how lonely I was.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's something, because just like you said, you've heard the terms before that, you feel lonely in a room full of people. And now to not even have anybody in the room, used to be able to be like, okay, I can find that distraction, or I can find somebody or something to distract me in that space. Now I'm in this space by myself and I'm alone for real, for real.
For real, for real. And now it's no longer just theoretical, it's
Right.
actual things that you have to face and deal with. And it's you yourself in the walls. It's you
Right.
yourself in the TV, occasional phone calls. And of course, we started doing a lot of Zoom calls and things like that. But
Right.
prior to that, people had to like really be with themselves.
Yeah.
And I think one of two things came out of that. Either they found healthy outlets
Yeah.
in the midst of being home, whether it was starting a business, whether it was having those conversations that were necessary.
Yes.
But then we also found unhealthy situations because we wanted to find a way to fill the voids and the loneliness we were feeling.
They call them Doritos. No, I'm teasing.
Yeah, Doritos, pizza,
Cheetos, all
people.
of that. Right. It's amazing. It's amazing. Just like you said, two things on each side of the spectrum. You're absolutely right.
Exactly.
You either figured out you figured out what to do at that time, and it was either going to be to your benefit or to your detriment. So yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. I know that it's so funny because I was reflecting on your podcast and I just thought about the first of the pandemic. Everyone was scrambling and paranoid and stressed out and scared, and I can relate to all of those things.
Right.
And then I thought about towards the middle how I had did a little dabbling online, and I met a gentleman and I was like, well, he's lonely, I'm lonely, we're going to eat Chinese food every other day because we can't really do much.
Right.
We only have the environment of being in the house. And then I thought about how I made a choice to not do that either, to really get serious about creating what I wanted. So
Right.
I went through a series of evolutions, during the pandemic.
Yeah. A lot of pivots. A lot of people made a lot of pivots, done some things that they wouldn't normally do, because they just, they figure, I have to do something. I have to do something. I have to move. Because otherwise you get caught up in a vacuum, or you get analysis paralysis. All of a sudden you're thinking about it so hard, then all of a sudden you're not moving. And you have to move. You have to move.
Stuck under papers.
Yes. And now here it is. You can't go outside, and you're looking, especially if you were on the dating scene when the pandemic started, and now you're like, okay, so now I can't go out. So now what? And so, here it is. We're still in the pandemic, but we're able to get out and about now. But people have really, during that time, started looking at some creative ways in which to meet people outside of the ordinary. And so with that, talk about, how you came about this whole idea of the Love Camp.
Sure. So the Love Camp really was birthed we're still in the pandemic, but it was birthed towards the end when the world started to open back up.
Right.
And we started taking some of the things that when we were creating it and when I was really birthing the concept, we wanted to think about all the things that we realized pre-pandemic, but also post-pandemic, because during the time that I was home by myself and I was alone and reflecting, I was talking to different people about what their needs were.
Yes.
So all that went into the consideration of how do we create it. And one of the things that I found is that the loneliest were African American women.
Mm.
From my experience.
Yeah.
We all were hit and felt it, but a lot of African American women felt it, and it was harder because pre-pandemic, we already know that the number of women that were available was a lot more than the number of men that were available.
Yeah.
And the unmarried one, to add to that, the number of unmarried women was a lot more than the unmarried men. And so we just, I took into all of the considerations that I became aware of, and I began to think about, how do I serve folks that need to learn best practices so they find their way to each other, how
Right.
they find their way back. Now that the world is open, how do we find our way back to each other, and now redefine what we should look like or could look like?
Yeah.
And that was the thinking behind creating it, is that we know that we weren't exhibiting the most healthy habits pre, and then post, they got exacerbated because then it showed us
Right.
how unhealthy we were, because we're stuck in the house now.
Right. Right.
So we
Right.
can't really connect. And so the creation is a love project, and was a project out of necessity to
Yeah.
redefine how we want to connect with each other, and to really think about, well, what are the healthy practices? And so we do it through retreats, because, what better way than to come together and have a safe space to
Yeah.
converse, to engage, but to have activities that are fun and enjoyable. We
Yeah.
also do it through coaching. I've been a certified coach for over a decade. So it's wonderful to be able to bring the best of what I know to transform people's thinking
Yeah.
and their beliefs about what's possible. And then we also do it through courses. And so those are the primary spaces, because we wanted people to have the tools. If
Yes.
we ever go through a pandemic again, you
Yes.
have the tools
Yeah.
to be together and
Yeah.
function.
I am a firm believer in that. That's it. You have to be equipped. How can you be proactive about anything, or if there's no preparation involved? We
Right.
have to be prepared for these kinds of things, and be able to reach into those toolboxes, because that's where we run into situations where you have people that spiral into depression. We have people that are taking their lives and things like that because they don't have the tools, or don't know where to reach out to receive those things that they need until they're in dire straits. And
Exactly.
we want to make sure that people are prepared ahead of time. So I love that that's the concept that you go by, because we want people to be prepared, and we want them to be ready. And, how many songs they say, I am ready for love. How are we ready for love? What are we doing to prepare for that?
Yes, absolutely. What steps are you taking?
Right.
And so we have like what we like as we have a creative process that we use. We go through the seasons.
Okay.
So we start in the winter, and it's a symbolic winter. Think about, winter is the time where you're hibernating, and we already were doing a lot of that. So now we bring to the forefront how we want to actually reflect on some of that. Not necessarily the literal pandemic, but just the reflection of wanting to change things and shift realities. And then we go through to the spring. Think about spring. Spring is something we create that's new. What do we want to create new that is in our love life and in our lives in general? And then we transition to summer, where summer is joyful and bright and sunny. And we're practicing things like communication and vulnerability and trust and respect, and all these topics that we have. And then last, we go to the fall season, and we prepare folks to reap the harvest and continue to build on what they've learned and to be able to maintain it.
Nice. Nice. I love that. The four seasons. I mean, the symbolism is just beautiful. It's beautiful, because that is what we do. It is, and it's funny. I said, because it's something my dad used to always say, when me and my sister were coming up, and we, in reference to relationships, and my brother as well, he would say, make sure that you can love that person through all four seasons. That's what he used to always say, that you can love that person through all four seasons. And talking about that symbolism and the preparations that you're making are the tools that you need to be able to do that. because
Do.
things are going to change.
Yes.
The seasons of a relationship change. They don't stay the same. It's not always summer. It's not always winter. It's not always spring, and it's not always fall. There's always going to be times where you're going to go, and how are you being proactive about engaging in that? So I love that the camp talks about, making sure that there's some education behind it, that there's something that goes along with it, that there are some courses, so that way people see it in action. It's not just enough to, for somebody to tell somebody what they need to do. They need to have some experiences or go through some examples so that they can see, okay, this is what it looks like. You don't want to wait till you're in it and then go, oh, this is what she was talking about. Now, what was it that she said we're supposed to do again? You gotta be prepared. Be prepared. So I love that. I love that you do that.
Can I give you, I would love to share one of the things that we did to point, to verify further your point, because I think the illustrated is such an example, and a wonderful example at that, is that during the winter season, when we were just coming out of the winter season during our retreat to Tanzania, we hiked up Mount Kilimanjaro. There's a waterfall in Kilimanjaro. And we hiked up there. It was one of the hardest hikes I had ever done. It took about 2 hours, but the symbolism is while you were hiking up the mountain, you were symbolically releasing things that no longer served you. Releasing things that you don't want to bring down the mountain, bring back with you when you travel back down the mountain.
Right.
And so we hiked to the waterfall, and folks were in meditative reflection while they were walking through it. We get to the bottom, we do this wonderful meditation and yoga in front of the waterfall. And people just talked about how light they were coming back, how they were ready now to move into the spring season because they had released the heaviness of winter. So it was very symbolic.
Wow. Okay. So now let's backtrack. She just said like, oh yeah, we went to Tanzania. I'm like Tanzania, like in Africa, Tanzania. so one of your love camp retreats was in Tanzania. And when did you all go?
Yes. So we had our first annual retreat in Tanzania in October 2022. And we were there for a beautiful 11 days.
Nice.
And we went to 3 different regions, including Zanzibar.
Nice.
And we were able to experience some of the most magical curriculum aligned events. So everything that we did aligned with the curriculum. So the activities help, like you said, reinforce the love journey steps you're taking. And we infused the culture of Tanzania into the curriculum. So we met with the Maasai. We studied how they live and communicate and connect. We hiked up the waterfall. We went to the spa so that we could prepare our minds and bodies for openness and to cleanse ourselves of our mind and spirit. Every day we did movement medicine so that we could be ready and present, So it really is and was an opportunity for us to really truly invite love into our space and make sure that we were available for it.
Okay. All right. So you had different people or it's open to anyone who wants to come. Is it just for single people, or is it for couples, or is it for a combination of both?
So it is for singles and couples, which I found was phenomenal because to experience the couples gave the singles something to strive for and to see the dynamics of, and vice versa. And also what made it really good is that the couples did their own work individually, and then they came together as partners to discuss the activities. And so they were able to individually get the quality and value, but also as a couple collectively.
Right. And then I think about the singles, because then they're able to, you all are experiencing at the same time. And so you have a memory that was created, and if you happen to meet during this camp, You can say, well, remember
Yep.
when we climbed Kilimanjaro? Remember when we went to the spa? I mean, you have something to talk about right then and there. That's monumental. That's
Yes.
something that you don't get to do every day. How many people can say they went to Tanzania, Africa, and climbed Mount Kilimanjaro? Who can say that? There are only
Right.
a handful of people who can, who have had the opportunity to do that. And so
Yeah.
I love that it's in places like that that are exotic. Now, will they always be in places that are on different continents or in different parts of the world, or will some of them be here in the States?
So we have some here. We have the Love Camp domestic and international.
Okay.
This year we have one in Massanutten, Virginia, in the mountains. Beautiful. We have one in Savannah, Georgia. We also have one in Houston, Texas.
Oh,
And
wow.
then the rest of our retreats are international. So we have one in Tulum, Mexico. We have our annual Tanzania. And then we also have one in Bali.
Oh, beautiful. My goodness. Okay, I'm gonna have to get on one of those. I'm gonna have to get with Mr. Raymond. We're gonna see which one. All right, honey, if you're listening, y'all get checkbook ready. All right, so yeah, I mean that sounds awesome. It's just beautiful to be able to experience things outside of where you are because then I think you appreciate it more when
I
you get
think
back
so.
home and it's closer to home, but it's nice to have that experience because you're coming back and it's just like oh well, we went out, we went to the local restaurant. I've been there before, I've done that. It takes it takes the monotony out of it.
It does.
And gives you someplace different to go.
There's not many people can say they had dinner in a restaurant that's in the ocean. We literally had to take a boat out to a restaurant that was in the ocean. So when the tide is high, you have to take a boat out to get to the restaurant.
Wow.
Not many people can say that. And when you look out, all you see is ocean. So we do things that really create an experience where people are still to this day talking about it. I have clients that participated in the retreat and I'm coaching them now, and they are still talking about they want to cherish and hold on to the love camp because we start with self-love and we move outward.
Yeah.
And what is a better way than this practice self-love by doing something, like you said, new and different and expansive for yourself?
That's right. That's right. So even at the end of the day, if you didn't have a date you can say, I experienced Africa. I experienced Tanzania.
Yes.
So you're still walking away full. So I love that. I love what it represents because just like you said, the greatest love should be love for you.
The greatest love. And we always start with self, because all things that create possibility, health and healing and wellness start with self.
Yeah.
And so we teach that, and then we help people to expand beyond themselves so that when they are ready to connect with love, it is a more organic, more holistic, more edifying experience because they've got rid of things that no longer serve them, and they did the work and they faced some things. I mean, it was quite amazing.
Wow. And so when they go to this love camp afterwards, are they, like I said, you said you have some that are existing clients. And so they have the opportunity to continue through the coaching process so that they can kind of, peel back the onion and talk about some of the things they may have experienced on their trip.
Absolutely. Because what happens is the trip opens them up and gives them some things they're working on to practice towards. But when they come home, now it's time to look at, well, how are you prospering and how do you want to continue to build on the trip?
Yes.
And we have certified coaches that are part of the trip. So this past year, we certified 2 coaches. One of them was my love, which I thought was absolutely wonderful to be so supportive. And so those coaches during their practicum, during the trip, they give our participants assignments, practices to expand. And so some of them coach with the coaches they came on, or some of them choose to coach with me, but we still build on what they were assigned to do while they were on the trip.
Oh my goodness. I mean, so it's just a win all the way around. It's just the win. I see nothing that doesn't sound beneficial from this trip. Whether it's that personal experience, it's that self love, it's an opportunity to become a coach, and it's an opportunity to be able to practice things. And that's the thing. It's all about application. We can talk all day long. We can talk till we're blue in the face,
Right.
and well done is better than well said. That's what Benjamin Franklin said. He said, well done is better than well said. It's what we do. It's how we put our hands to the plow that's going to determine, what's going to prosper. What are we going to produce from that? And we can't do that from yeah, it just cannot be empty words. It's got to be being able to go out there and experience it, and to say, all right, how can I take this monumental experience and and apply it to my everyday life?
Right.
You know,
Right.
you know,
Exactly. How can I make it make sense and continue to create? Because one of the things we learned in the pandemic is that we didn't feel empowered. We felt a little helpless. And so when we came out, it was almost like a new leash on life.
that's it.
We're
Yes,
free,
that's
we're
it.
free. And so to have the love camp right as we were closing out the restrictions and the lockdown and things like that, I think it gave people also an opportunity to breathe. Like people
Yeah,
were like ecstatic that they could come out and breathe because a lot of us were held in our breath, you
right,
know?
right.
And so that's one of the things it did as well, is it gave people permission to breathe.
Yes, I love that permission to breathe. And that's what it's
Mhm.
about. But like you said, it starts from within. Everything starts from within. A lot of the basis of a lot of the shows that I've been doing over these past couple of years has been with that in mind. It's just people being able to get to that space of breathing again and getting to that space of moving outside of fear and outside of knowledge and saying, okay, I need to learn something so that way I can get to that space of growth. That's where we want to
Yeah.
get to ideally. We want to get to a space of growth. How can we move from being inside this shell and getting to that space where now we're confident and we can walk in our own truth? And that's something
Exactly.
that's so important. So I love what it is that you are doing with this love
Thank
camp. I'm so
you.
excited about that. And when
Thank
is your
you.
next one coming up?
Our next one coming up is March 18th through the 21st,
Okay.
and it's in the beautiful mountains of Massanutten, Virginia.
Okay. And so do people come from all over? Is it open to people if they go to your website and find out, or if they find out information or get in contact with you, they're able to book to
Yeah,
come,
so
or do
we
you
have
have to do local?
Well, they can come from all over, but we have an application process where
Okay.
we vet the individuals because we want to be able to serve them. We want to make sure we understand their mindset. So we have an application process. So people can find us on Instagram, or they can actually text us directly,
Uh-huh.
and we then send them the application.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Hey, everything is about a process. And just like you said, vetting people and making sure that people are in a space that they need to be in, just like you said, so that when they're coming, they're in the best possible place to
Yes.
glean what was meant
Right.
from it. It's not just you're not a travel agent where it's just say, oh, you're just coming on a cruise or you're just coming to go there.
Right.
This is, like I said, these are for people who are trying to find love on purpose. I love that you
Exactly.
say that if you're
And
looking for
we
that.
know that it's our role to make it safe and
Yes.
be able to allow people to be seen and, like you said, be their authentic selves. And so to do
Yeah.
that, we have to vet the folks that are coming. But we get excited about the transformation that's happening already. Like
Yes.
it's beautiful to watch. Even though I'm the founder of it, there are times that I sit back and I'm listening and I'm emotional, almost as if I'm a spectator and I forget
Right.
that I'm the chief coach or that I'm the founder. It's more just about being in awe of people's transformation,
Yeah.
and then it becomes less about us and more about individuals wanting to do the
Right.
work
Right.
and do it in a safe and fun space.
Right. And you're building relationships, even if it's a friendship. So,
Yes.
I mean, so it goes far beyond just it, because there are many different facets of love. You have brotherly love, you have, agape love, you have all different types
Yes.
of love. And so even if you walk away from the trip with, I thought that, I made a really good friend. I made a wonderful connection. Again, it goes back to relationships. But again,
Indeed.
it starts with that relationship of self. And then once we have that relationship of
Indeed.
self, we are now open to having healthy and productive relationships with others. So I think that like I said, it's a 100% win. I
Thank
don't
you.
see
I
it being
agree.
a can win. I think that it's absolutely wonderful what you're doing. I'm excited about the things that are to come with your love camp, and just the premise behind it. And that you are vetting people, and that, it is a process, and that it's something that you need to be mentally prepared for. Are there any little things that people can be thinking about, as they're thinking, if they were going to, if I was to say, oh, I think I'm going to apply to come to this love camp, what are some things that they should be thinking about, as they go through that application process?
Sure. I would definitely ask them to ask themselves, are they coachable? Because some people don't want to see themselves. They say they do, but they don't.
Right.
So they have to ask themselves, are you coachable? You have to be willing to ask yourself, is there something that you want to shift? And are you open to shift it? Because sometimes we don't like the things that we have in our life or in our love reality, but we're not willing to shift it. So you have to be willing to say, how realistic is it that you would want to shift it? And there's no force like this. It's in your own time, in your own season. But part of the love camp gives you activities and stretches you to step outside of your comfort zone.
Right.
And so then I think the last question would be, is what would you like to create with love? Like if
Mm.
if the love that you have isn't the one you want to create, whether you're in a relationship or you're not, what would you like to create? Like dare yourself to believe that love can be more expansive and bigger and more satisfying. What does that look like?
I think that's awesome. And those are powerful questions to ask, because you just don't want people to just, like I said, come willy-nilly. This is not just a vacation thing. This is okay, I'm looking for love on purpose, and these are some things that I'm willing to do to prepare for that, to fill that toolbox with what it is that needs to be in it. So I think that
Exactly.
this is awesome. This is amazing. And like I said, we're going to give people ways that they can get in contact with you in just a few minutes. But before we start wrapping things up, I always ask my guests, what are some things that they are doing to live in the now, to live in this space? What are some things that you are doing personally to live in this now?
Two of my favorite things to live in the now, right now that I'm doing is absolutely taking time to like reset and breathe when I feel like my day is too much. I'm not only breathing, but I'm resetting my framework about the day. That's very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of my favorite things that I love is I write in my gratitude journal morning and night. So
Nice.
I always write how I'm setting the tone for the day and what I'm grateful for, and then how I'm holding space for a day to be great. And then I reflect on that day in the evening.
I love that. I absolutely love it. Everybody has so many different ways in which they're navigating in this space, and it's so positive and true and real to each individual person. And every time I hear someone's thoughts on what they're doing and now, I'm always in awe. Like, wow, that's so cool. Because it's their truth. It's what helps them to be able to get through the day. It's what helps them to strengthen them, and to have them look forward to tomorrow, but to enjoy what's happening right now. So I love that you are doing that. That is absolutely wonderful. So now let's talk about how people can get in contact with you and how they can find out about this love camp and the things that you're doing there.
Sure. So one of the direct ways to get in contact with us is to text us.
Okay.
And the reason why is because we can then send you the application and we can communicate directly faster via text.
Okay.
And so we always ask people to text us at 240-415 8559. 240-415-8559.
Okay.
And we usually ask that you text and say Love Camp interest, because then we know that you are interested in Love Camp, and we can then send you out an application and a greeting and get to know you better. That's one of our things. We want to make sure that we can support you and that you are coachable and you are a candidate we can work with, of course.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So they can text you, text Love Camp interest to
Yep.
240-415-8559. Okay.
Yes, that
will be
comes
definitely in the
directly to
description.
us.
Yes, now it will be in the description of the show when it airs, so people will know how to get in contact with you and start on their journey and possibly come
Yes.
and enjoy one of the many trips that you have prepared in 2023, and this may be their season for love. How about that?
Yes. Yes. I hope it is. I wish for more and more people to have abundant, blissful, magical love, because it does transform your reality. It is not just a Hollywood concept. Love is so transformative.
That's it. And it's so organic when it's true and it's pure, and that's something that people should strive to look forward to.
Indeed.
So again, Renee, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Most
Thank you
welcome.
for talking about the Love Camp, and know now that you are part of the How Now family,
I love it.
We're sisters now. Okay, I'll be
Yes.
in the house. But
How now? I love it.
you are always welcome back. I tell my guests what's happening right now may not be what's happening a couple of years from now, a couple of hours from now, a couple of days from now. So you're always welcome to come back and tell us what's going on in your now and in your world. So again, welcome to the How Now family. And for everyone listening, that'll do it for this edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. And until we see you the next time, I say peace.